Allah, Allah, Allah kar, Allah, Allah, Allah kar. Teri zubaan ho uska naam, tera dil ho uska ghar. तेरी जुबां हो उसका नाम, तेरा दिल हो उसका घर. दर कर भागे सब शैतान, दर कर भागे सब शैतान, तू सिर्फ एक खुदा से डर. अल्लाह 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 कर, अल्लाह 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 कर, अल्लाह 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 कर. हर दम अल्लाह अल्लाह कर, नूर से अपना सीना भर. जिए तो उसका होकर जी, मरे तो उसका होकर मर. अल्लाह 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 कर, अल्लाह 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 कर. सबके बख्शे वही गुनाह, शर्त है इस्तिग़फ़ार मगर. सबके बख्शे वही गुनाह, शर्त है इस्तिग़फ़ार मगर. हम मांगते हैं वो दाता, हम मांगते हैं वो दाता, उससे मांगने में शर्म न कर. अल्लाह 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 कर, अल्लाह 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 कर, अल्लाह 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 कर. हर दम अल्लाह अल्लाह कर, नूर से अपना सीना भर. जिए तो उसका होकर जी, मरे तो उसका होकर मर. अल्लाह 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 कर, अल्लाह 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 कर, अल्लाह 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 कर, अल्लाह 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 कर.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الحبيب المرسلين محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، قال جل وعلا: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. قال جل وعلا: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا وسبحوه بكرة وأصيلا. Respected ulama, elders, brothers, sisters, little ones, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. After praising the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending salutations upon our beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, this ajiz, fakir, miskeen, da'if, mustajir, al-muhtaj ila rahmati rabbihi wa barakatihi begins as always by first thanking you, my host, for giving me this opportunity to convey the message of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I pray to the Almighty Allah that Allah accepts these humble efforts of yours in listening to this message, as I pray to the Almighty Allah that Allah accept these tutti-frutti efforts of mine in trying to convey the message of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a tutti-frutti way. My young friends, dhikr is the remembrance of Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ. There's nothing bigger and better than the remembrance of Allah. When there's nothing bigger and better than Allah, then what can be better and bigger than the remembrance of Allah? To truly understand what is the remembrance of Allah, my young friends, we have to know who we are remembering. Who is Allah? Who is Allah? You tell me, who is Allah? Allah is the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi. What does it mean, Allah is the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi? You live on planet Earth at this moment in time with 8 billion people, 8 billion people. And how many more till the day of judgment? Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. How many makhluk inside the oceans which haven't been discovered? Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. What is this planet that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in comparison to what Allah's created out there? It's nothing. This planet that you live on with 8 billion people and makhluk, which you and I are unaware of at this moment in time, is not even an iota in comparison to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created out there. You see the sun rise every single day from the east, and you see it set in the west. إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. It's a star. One star. How big is this star that you see every single day? As a thought ever crossed your mind? We don't ponder. We just take things for granted. It's there. It's the sun. So big. Wow. Allah hasn't created anything without hikmat and wisdom and without a reason. It's not just there. How big is it? This dunya that you live in? How many times do you think planet Earth would fit inside that sun? 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000? Scientists would say you take around 1 million of these Earths and the sun would accommodate them. There is only one star. How many stars out there? There are billions and billions of stars just in our galaxy. How many galaxies out there? There are billions and billions of galaxies out there. You know, when you go out on a night, clear night, and you raise your head and you look above, whatever you see out there, the billions and billions of stars and galaxies which the naked eye can't even see, everything is within the first heaven. There are 7 heavens. The distance between the first and the second, 500 years. At what speed? Only Allah knows. Second to third, 500 years. Third to fourth, 500 years. Fifth to sixth, 500 years. Sixth to the seventh, 500 years. And then you have the kursi of Allah. وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. How big is the kursi of Allah? Our little minds cannot even begin to imagine, never mind comprehend. These 7 heavens put together in comparison to the kursi, and this is not an exaggeration, would be like a particle of sand to the Sahara Desert. One particle of sand to the entire Sahara Desert. This is just an example. The 7 heavens are in comparison to the kursi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you have the arsh of Allah. How big is the arsh of Allah in comparison to the kursi? Again, as an example, one particle of sun in comparison to the Sahara Desert. This time the kursi is the particle and the arsh is the Sahara Desert. And then you have angels that carry the arsh. وَيَحْمِلُ أَرْشَ رَبِّكَ فَوْقَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ ثَمَانِيَةٌ. How big these angels? Their heads are in the 7th heaven, their feet are in the lowest earth. The distance between the earlobe and the shoulder, it would take 700 years to cover that distance. This is how big these angels are. And then you have Allah, the one, the only one, the Lord Most High, the most magnificent, Lord of Jibreel, Mikael, Israfil. You've heard the name Jibreel again and again and again. How big is Jibreel? Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala says the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw Jibreel. What did he see? What did he see? 600 wings, and each wing covers the horizon. And jewels are falling from these wings, rubies, diamonds, emeralds. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the reality of it. This is one creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you have Allah, the Qawiyul Qadir al-Muqtadir, the one and true power. There is no power like his power. Never mind Allah, my young friends. So powerful is his blessed name. If you were to take his name with khulus, nothing within this kainat can stand before you. You take his name with khulus, you're traveling, there's a mountain. That mountain will give way, you'll walk right through it. You take his name with khulus, there's an ocean. The ocean will become subservient. You take his name with khulus, you're walking in a jungle, you see a lion, he'll start waggling his tail like a dog and start walking around you, obedient, tamed. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ would take the name of Allah. Ya Ahad, Ya Samad, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum, Ya Dhul Jalali wal Ikram, La ilaha illa anta ya Rabbana. And the seas would give way and become subservient, and they would walk over water just as one walks over soft sand. Khalid bin Walid wants to visit the Persians, and he's warned, "Ihdar as-sam la tusqi qawl ajim." Oh Khalid, be careful. The Persians are known for poisoning their enemies, and they'll poison you. They'll take advantage. Khalid said, "They'll poison me. Bring poison to me." It's presented. He takes it in his palm, and he reads, "Bismillah, khayr al-asma, Rabbil ardi wa Rabbil sama, alladhi la yudurru ma ismi da, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim." In the name of Allah, Lord of the heavens and the earth, the one with whose name nothing can harm. You take his name, nothing can harm you. The most merciful, the most kind. And he eats this, and it has no impact on Khalid bin Walid. Not only Khalid bin Walid, Abu Muslim Khawlani, rahimahullah, his slave girl wanted to get rid of him. So every day when she presented food, she would add poison to it, and she would give it to him, and he would eat it. She's done this on the first day, the second day, the third day, the fourth day. Weeks are passing by. Never mind dying, he doesn't even fall ill. She's fed up, she's tired. She approaches him, and she confesses and admits that for days on end I've been trying to kill you. I'm adding poison to your food, but you're not dying. Why are you not dying? Why are you not falling ill? So he asked her, "Why are you doing this?" So she mentioned, "Look, you're old and weak. I want to move on. I want to marry someone, but I can't be free till you die. So that's why I'm doing this." What did he say to her? "The reason I'm not dying is because I take the name of Allah every single day before I take my food and after my food." And then he set her free so she can marry whoever she likes. The Roman king writes to Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, "I get a continuous headache, give me something, send some medication." What does Sayyidina Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala send? A topi. It's given to him and he wears it. Ajib thing is, every time he wears the topi, he's fine. Every time he takes off the topi, the headache returns. What does he do? One day he looks inside the heart, and what does he find? The name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inscribed inside the heart. The Sheikhs of Ghassan and Balkan report, in the battle of Hims against the Byzantines, the Muslims shouted aloud, "Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest." They shouted so loud, as a result of which an earthquake occurred in all the cities of the Byzantines. They shouted Allahu Akbar for a second time. A majority of their houses and walls collapsed, and Hims was conquered. Before the end of time, how will Constantinople be conquered? The Muslims will say Allahu Akbar, one side will fall. The Muslims will say Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest, the second side will fall. The Muslims will say for a third time, Allahu Akbar, and Constantinople will be history, and the Muslims will acquire the booty. My young friends, so powerful is the name of Allah that it sustains the entire universe. This entire universe, this nizam, that's been running for how long? Scientists will tell you for billions of years. And everything is running in perfect harmony. Billions and billions of galaxies and stars, kullun fi falakin yasbahun, never collide. Never collide. Everything in perfect harmony. And as a result of which, my friends, you and I are living at ease and at peace. The name of Allah sustains this universe and everything within it. When will Qiyamah take place? When there is no one that believes in Allah's oneness and greatness, and there is no one that takes the name of Allah. Allah, and the glorification of Allah ceases, comes to an end. This is where my young friends, this nizam will no longer run in perfect harmony, and every single thing within the sky and earth will come to an end. This is what sustains the universe, and this is what sustains you and I. Dhikr is the nourishment of the soul and heart. If you do not give the soul and heart this nourishment, the nourishment that it so desperately requires, my young friends, your ruh, your heart will become weakened, it will starve, and it will die. The Prophet ﷺ said, مثل الذي يذكر ربه والذي لا يذكر مثل الحي والميت. The difference between one that remembers Allah and one that doesn't remember Allah, the difference between the two is just like the difference between one that is alive and one that is dead. The difference is the difference between heaven and earth. A person that's alive, that remembers Allah, is not just physically alive. One that remembers Allah is physically alive, is spiritually alive. One that doesn't remember Allah, he may be physically alive, he may be walking, talking, going about his business on a daily basis, going to work, playing, active, but spiritually, he's dead. He's of no benefit. Balki he's harming himself, is harming the environment, is harming everything that is in existence. Why do you think when a believer dies, the heavens and the earth cry? Because he was beneficial not only to himself, he was beneficial to the environment. He was beneficial to all those around him. He was beneficial to the kainat. He was helping the existence of this kainat. He was helping this nizam to run in perfect harmony. And when a kafir dies, فَمَا بَكَتْ آلِهِمُ السَّمَاء وَالْأَرْضِ, nothing shed tears. Balki they do shukr. Why do they do shukr? Because he was harming the heaven, he was harming the earth, he was harming all Allah's makhluk. And when a believer dies, they cry because they've been deprived of the dhikr, which benefits not only him, it benefits the entire kainat. My young friends, this insan is made out of two things: body and soul. And the most important is the soul, is the ruh, because the body is temporary. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. You'll be buried 6 foot under, the body will decay, it'll be replaced. كلما ندت جلودهم بدلناهم جلودا غير ليذوقوا العذاب. Even in Jahannam, Allah will keep on replacing, giving you new flesh, new skin. But the ruh doesn't die. It just moves from one place to another. It is asal. What would happen if you didn't eat for a few days? Your body needs nourishment. It needs ghiza, it needs food to survive. What would happen if you didn't eat for a few days and drink at the same time? You didn't eat the first day, you'd become weak, you'd feel lethargic. You may not want to go to work because you're tired, you're pulling a sickie. You don't eat a second day or drink, you're not going to get out of bed. Third day, you can't even tolerate the sound of your wife's voice. Fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, before you know it, you're 6 foot under history, you're gone. You need food to survive. You need nourishment to survive. You give this body the food, the ghiza, the nourishment that it requires, then this body will be able to function. You'll be able to do what you like. You'll be able to go to work, carry out your responsibility, your task. You'll be able to socialize, play football, whatever you choose to do, because you have the strength to do this, because you've given the body the nourishment and ghiza and food that it requires. If you take it up a notch, not only give this body food, nourishment, not any type of food, not any type of nourishment, you decide to give it good food. You decide to give it good nourishment. You don't eat burgers. You don't eat oily foods. You don't eat chocolates, sweets, fizzy drinks, sugar, desserts. You avoid all this. And you eat good. You eat healthy foods. You eat grilled chicken, grilled fish, grilled meat, boiled veg. And on top of this, what you do is you regularly exercise every single day. My young friends, when you look after the body in this manner, you eat healthy, you just don't eat, you give it good nourishment, you look after it, you refrain from the things that will harm this body, and on top of this, you regularly exercise, my young friends, you will find there's nothing much that this body can't do. فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. You will find there's nothing much that this body can't do. Don't look at yourself and myself. Don't do this. Don't give it good giza. We'll knock anything back. We're not bothered. We live to eat. You're only here for a few days. Fill your belly with whatever. And we don't exercise. Those that do, my young friends, you will find there's nothing much that bodies can't do. This is why you find there are people out there that climb mountains like Mount Everest for fun. Whereas I'm so physically unfit that if I walk to work, I probably won't go in for the next week. There are people so physically fit that work on their bodies and exercise and work on their hearts, my young friends, that they can slow their heartbeat. They dive inside the ocean and they can hold their breath for minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Whereas if I tried this in a swimming pool, 10, 15 seconds and my heart would pop, bomb, 6 foot under, gone, history. When you look after your body, my young friends, in this manner, there's nothing much that the body can't do. Body is important. But more important, my young friends, is the ruh. Body can and will be replaced. The ruh is asal. Fish can't survive without water. Fish need water. Everywhere. To the right, to the left, above, below. The more the fish is immersed in water, the more it will be at ease and at peace. If the fish is in water and the water is less, where the head is exposed and the body is in water, how long before the heat of the sun gets the better of it and the fish will die? Because the water was insufficient. The ruh, my young friends, and the heart need ghiza and nourishment. You give it ghiza, you give it nourishment, you look after it, then my young friends, your heart will become strong, your ruh will become strong. Prophet ﷺ said, for everything there's a polish, there's a cleanser, there's a purifier. And the cleanser and the polish for the hearts is the dhikr of Allah, it's the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, metals, if you've got anything that's made out of metal at your house, your gates, they need regular maintenance. Every so often, every year, every 2 years, you need to paint them, look after them. If you don't paint them, you don't look after them, what will happen? Corrosion, rust. And before you know it, they're worthless. The heart and your ruh need regular maintenance. Regular ghiza, regular nourishment. Your salvation depends upon this. If you don't give it nourishment, you turn away from Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You rebel. You commit guna. You disobey. You commit sin, fornicate, zina. What will happen? Your heart will become weak. Your ruh will become weak. Every time you commit guna, there's a black mark on your heart. You make istighfar, you say astaghfirullah, it's removed and your heart begins to glow. You don't make istighfar, you don't make tawbah, you don't make ruju, and you've committed another guna, now there's another black dot. You commit another guna, another black dot. You commit another guna, another black dot. And this stain becomes bigger and bigger and bigger till it gets to a stage where the entire heart becomes black. It gets to a stage where the heart can no longer see. It becomes blind. Just like a person that's blind or his eyesight is weak. When a person's blind, he can't see things for what they are. He will make many mistakes. He's assuming that what he's touching and feeling is a particular thing, and he'll say, is this? Only to realize that what he's saying is totally incorrect, because you can see that it's not this, whereas he can't see this. So when a person's blind, he can't see things for what they are. When the heart becomes blind, my young friends, it cannot see things for what they are. The heart begins to view haqq, what is truth, as batil, as falsehood, and it begins to view what is batil as haqq. It gets to a stage, my young friends, where there's a seal on the heart after this. ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم ولا أبصارهم. Allah seals the heart. كلا بل ران على قلوبهم ما كانوا يكسبون. And when it gets to this stage, my young friends, when it gets to this stage, haqq can be crystal clear. This man could be Einstein, the cleverest man within the multiverse. But because his heart is become blind, even though haqq is crystal clear, even a child of 2 can see this is haqq, this is correct. He will not be able to see this, and nothing will enter his heart. When you make dhikr, it purifies the heart. It purifies the heart to such a degree, my young friends, the heart begins to glow and gets to such a stage, my young friends, where there are no limits. This is why you find those that look after their souls and hearts and are spiritually strong, There's nothing that they can't do. Those that don't look after their hearts and their souls and are spiritually weak, my young friends, they could be sitting in a gathering with their friends, watching a game of football, the World Cup. It's time for Maghrib Salah. There's 10 of them. They've been sitting there for 2 hours. It's time for Maghrib Salah. They're all sitting there. 8 of them get up to go read their Salah, make wudu. 2 of them will sit there because they're spiritually weak. They've got nowhere to go. They've got nothing to do. They have no excuse because it's half time. It's a 15-minute interval. They're not going to miss the game, not even for a second. These 8 will come back, read their namaz, and watch the game thereafter. The 2 will sit there, wait for namaz to come to an end, and participate in the game. My young friends, there are individuals that have come to visit me for issues inside the masjid. Spoke to me for an hour. It's time for salah. The muaddin calls Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Rather than making their way into the Jamaat Khana and offering salah, even if it's just pretending, they will walk out. They will wait for namaz to come to an end, and then they will walk back in and they'll discuss what they were discussing before namaz. And when people are spiritually strong, they look after their heart. They look after their ruh. They give it the giza. They give it the nourishment. What becomes of them? What becomes of them? My young friends, you have Abbad ibn Bishr radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is returning from a ghazwa, from a battle, from a campaign. And he decides to stop at a place to take rest. So he asks the Sahaba, who will watch over the camp? Abbad and Ammar volunteer. Ya Rasulullah, will watch over the camp tonight. You look, sleep. Abbad says to Ammar, what's the point of both of us staying awake? Let's take turns. Let me stay awake first. You go to sleep. So Abbad stays awake. What does he do? He connects with Allah. He stands before the Almighty Allah in prayer. A scout, an enemy scout, saw Abbad ibn Bishr from a distance and started shooting arrows. Arrows are piercing his body. How can you not feel pain? Just take a needle and prick yourself, see what will happen. 6'6", and you'll start calling Ammi Ji, Ammi Ji. Arrows are piercing his body. Casually, he just takes them as if nothing's happening and continues with salah. And as he's reading, the thought crosses his mind, okay, what if my death jeopardizes the safety of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He quickly finishes off prayer and awakens Ammar. When Ammar saw that Abbad is covered in blood, he's shocked. Why didn't you awaken me earlier? What does he say? I was standing before my Lord and I was getting such a buzz reciting Surah Kahf. I was getting such a buzz, such a joy in reciting Surah Kahf that I didn't want to go into ruku and sajda and finish off this prayer, even if I was killed in this salah. It was only when the thought crossed my mind that my death may jeopardize the safety of Rasulullah did I finish off my salah. Look at Sayyidina Bilal Habshi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. They would persecute him by day, by night. To add salt to the wounds, they would drag him in the scorching heat of Arabia and force him to lie on the burning sand. Place a large stone and then taunt him. لا تزال هكذا حتى تموت أو تكفر بمحمد وتعبد اللات والعزى. Why would Bilal not renounce the kalima and still say Ahad, Ahad, Ahad? You have the likes of Urwa. He's just had his left leg amputated while conscious. How can you do that? It doesn't make sense. It defies everything. Conscious. His left leg has been amputated. Even on that day, he did not miss his tahajjud and he stood before Almighty Allah for hours on end. You had the likes of Rabi. He was paralyzed. But he would insist to be carried to the masjid. And people would say, oh Rabi, you're ma'adhur, you're an invalid. You don't have to come to the masjid. You have an excuse. And he would say, I know the masala, I know I have an excuse. But I can hear the caller call, Hayya ala salah, Hayya al falah, come to salah, come to success. And wood should respond to this call and cry, even if he has to crawl on his knees. My young friends, just like when you look after this body, there's nothing much that this body can't do. When you look after your heart and you purify it and you give it the nourishment that it so desperately needs, my young friends, what you will experience then is what you can't even begin to dream of in a dream, even if you had a choice in what you could dream about. What Allah will reveal to you then, my young friends, my little brain and my little mind, your little brain and little mind cannot even begin to imagine and conceive. Where did the purity and piety كان يذكر الله على كل أحيانه? Prophet ﷺ would remember Allah by day, by night. His work was dhikr. His heart would make dhikr. Where did the piety and purity of Rasulullah take him? فكان قاب قوسين أو أدنى فأوحى إلى عبده ما أوحى ما كذب الفؤاد ما رأى أفتمارونه على ما يرى ولقد رآه نزلة أخرى عند سدرة المنتهى عندها جنة المأوى. Why did it take him? You know, the story of Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam comes to mind. He needs the throne of Bilqis from Yemen. He wants it brought to Sham. So he asked, who can bring this? قال إفريت من الجن. And the jinn, Allah has blessed them with power and strength. قال إفريت من الجن أنا آتيك به قبل أن تقوم من مقامك. O Sulaiman, I will bring it before this majlis comes to an end. He was relying on his physical power, physical strength. And the one that purified his soul, heart and mind, قال الذي عنده علم من الكتاب. What did he say? أنا آتيك به قبل أن يرتد إليك طرفك. O Sulaiman, it will be here before you can even blink. And it was there. This is not just for this individual or any individual or just the Prophet ﷺ. It's not just confined to that, confined to these individuals. When you purify your soul, heart and mind, my young friends, there are people today, 1400 years after the Prophet ﷺ, that has left this world, to whom time and place mean nothing. The entire kainat is in the palms of their hands. They go where they choose. They take the name of Allah. Allah removes all barriers, and when in an instance they're there, they open the door. On the other side, they are wherever they wish to go with the will and permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the real kings, not the kings of the dunya. You desire power, I desire power. We love to be praised. We want people to talk about us. We want people to follow us. We like likes. My young friends, these are not the real kings. A king only rules over land. And even then, Bichara can't sleep at night. Wherever he goes, he needs armies to go with him to protect him. He needs bodyguards, 10, 15, 20 people. King Charles goes from London to Bradford before he goes for a month. They're making preparations. Security, make sure everything is safe and secure. And the people are looking for opportunities whenever they get an opportunity to kill them. That's not a king. These kings, my young friends, Allah Wale, rule not only, they rule over souls, hearts, and minds. Look at Abdullah ibn Mubarak. Look at what he was. Only thing that interested him was singing and dancing. And he was always intoxicated. From this, when he connects with Allah, look how Allah raises him. The King Harun Rashid, who ruled half of the world, envied him. Harun Rashid is in his palace with his wife, and he can hear this loud noise coming from the outskirts. So he's afraid. As the enemy attack, so he sends a message, go see what's happened. So the message comes back, nothing's happened, there's no enemy. The great Abdullah ibn Mubarak arrived today. Thousands and thousands of people went to receive him. Thousands and thousands of people went to receive him. And when he came, it so happened that he sneezed and he said, Alhamdulillah. All those that were present, the thousands of them, spontaneously and simultaneously responded, Yarhamukallah. The sound that Yarhamukallah made, O Amir al-Mu'mineen Harun Rashid, is what you heard inside your palace, thinking that the enemy has launched an attack on the outskirts of this city. And his wife said to him, O Harun, you think you're a king and you rule half of the world. The reality is, royalty belongs to these people, for they rule over souls and hearts. Imam Abu Yusuf is walking to the masjid and he has students behind him. And this scene is unfolding before Harun Rashid. He gets to the masjid and he takes off his slippers, he takes off his shoes. Now people see it as an honor to carry the slippers of Allah. The Prophet ﷺ, Abdullah bin Masud was known as Sahibun Na'alain. He used to carry the slippers of the Prophet ﷺ and present it to the Prophet ﷺ when the Prophet ﷺ went to wear them. So now he's got to the masjid and he has got his students behind him. And all the students want to make khidmat of their Shaykh. It's a different thing that the students today want their Shaykh to make khidmat and believe that they've surpassed their Shaykh. When Allah gives them a little bit of izzat, it is what it is. You can say astaghfirullah, but it's a sad reality. Now, it was the practice in those days that whichever student touched the slipper first would have the right to pick up the slipper. So now the students are behind him, he's taken off his slipper. So what happens? One student holds, one student put his hand on one slipper and the other student put his hand on the other slipper. Now what should happen? Who has the right to carry the slippers? So one of the students had a rumal, so he spread the rumal. And he took his slipper and placed it inside the rumal. The second student picked up his slipper and placed it on the rumal. Then one of the students held one end of the rumal and carried it, and the other student held the other end of the rumal, and they're carrying the slippers of Imam Abu Yusuf with such respect. And Harun Rashid is looking at all this, and he took a deep breath and he sighed. And his wife Zubaydah asked, "Oh Harun, what's the matter? Oh Harun, what's the matter?" He said, "People don't fight. People say I'm a king, but nobody ever fights to carry my slippers. These people are the real kings. Taimur Lang ruled half of the world." How much? Half of the world Taimur Lang ruled. When he died, what do you think his wasiyat was? When he died, he ruled half of the world. Half of the world he ruled. When he died, his wasiyat was, "Bury me at the feet of my Shaykh." Bury me at the feet of my Shaykh. This king ruled half of the world, knew he's nothing. This is not the real kingdom. This is not the real king. His Shaykh was the real king. And this is where he's buried in Uzbekistan, at the feet of his Shaykh. What people do for Allah wale. You know, a king has to pay for everything. He has to pay for people to carry his bags. When he goes anywhere, he pays for the food. He pays for the transport. He pays for his security. Our Hazrat Rahmatullah Ali passed away very recently. This was the real king. This was the real king. You know, on his table, there'd be tickets from every corner of the globe. People literally begging him again and again or again, was it, "Please honor us with your presence." Whether it's Trinidad, Tobago, whether it's America, Canada. Yeah. He has his baggage. People are fighting for one another, with one another. Okay, Allah, allow us to carry your baggage. People are fighting with one another. Please accept our dawah. Doesn't it remind you of the Prophet ﷺ? كادوا يقتتلون على وضوئه فوالله ما تنخم رسول الله نخامة إلا وقعت في كف رجل منهم فدلك بها وجهه وجلده. When he would spit, where will you ever hear this about a king? That somebody will receive his sputum and anoint his body with it. And the Sahaba they wouldn't allow the sputum to touch the ground and they would receive it in their hands and they would anoint their bodies with it. They would use it as the itar. When he would make wudu, they were prepared to fight with one another for the water that fell from his limbs. And if anyone didn't get that water, what would he do? He would touch the wet hands of the one that got it and he would wipe it over his body. This, my young friends, is the dhikr of Allah. You connect with Allah, with its conditions. And dhikr is not just Allah, Allah, Allah. Every good, every act of obedience is a form of dhikr. You sitting here at this moment in time is dhikr. Every act of obedience is dhikr, my young friends. If this dhikr is done with its conditions, this kainat, and I'm not saying this out of exaggeration, this kainat will be in the palm of your hand. Time and place will mean nothing. You will not be just looking with the eyes in your head which have restrictions. You can't see beyond this wall in this room. You will be looking with the eyes of your heart. And there, my young friends, there are no barriers. There are no walls. What Allah will disclose in terms of secrets, Allah will become yours and you will become Allah. And on this note, my young friends, alhamdulillah, bang on 7 o'clock, I conclude. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Again, jazakumullah khair, ahsan al-jaza, my young friends, for sitting here patiently and listening to this lallu.
هذا هو الشيخ اسماعيل صح شيخ ابني يقول درم قران كيس
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Both of them. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده أما بعد. قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: ألا إن في الجسد لمضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. My respected ulama, my shaykh, elders, I don't feel very well today, and to be totally honest with you, I didn't feel like coming. Not because it was a gathering that I didn't want to attend. I think there's many mashaykh here, there are many ulama here. I'm feeling a little bit poorly, but at the end of the day, Hazrat Maulana Abdurrahim Sahab, al-amru fawq al-adab, that command is before adab, and it's his command, so I've come here, and he's also given me a topic to speak about. So I said, okay, I'll come and speak about this topic. A couple of years ago, and the verse that I recited in front of you, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah, that all believers gain complete taqwa, the cognizance, the understanding, the realization, the awareness of Allah Almighty. Ibn Atal Iskandari rahmatullah alayhi in his Al-Hikam, he mentions in the Bab al-Dhikr, in the commentary on the chapter of Dhikr, he mentions 3 types of Dhikr, which Maulana Abdullah Gangohi rahmatullah alayhi then expounds upon. He says one is that Dhikr that a person does in ghaflat. Yeah, he's spinning the tasbih, as you could possibly say. That he does the Dhikr, the tasbih is moving, but it's not doing anything. As Gangohi rahmatullah alayhi says that the name of Allah, even though it's said with ghaflat, it leaves some sort of effect whatsoever. The second type of dhikr he then mentions is that whilst the person is doing dhikr, at the time of dhikr, the dhikr is actually, his heart and mind is there for the presence of that dhikr. This is a second type of dhikr. And then he mentions there's another third type of dhikr, that he might not have a tasbih, he might not be there ready to do the dhikr, but constantly his dhikr is moving. He's in zikr. And you see this, some of the mashayikh, he says about many of the mashayikh, that some of our Chishti mashayikh used to make one of the shughal, or one of the actions that they used to make people do, still make people do, is the pass and fast. And they say that from the pass and fast, a person is sleeping and his dhikr continues. That as he's breathing makes out the dhikr of Allah Almighty. Continuing on, he says, then a person reaches a higher level, and he says that he becomes so engrossed and so immersed in the dhikr of Allah Almighty that he becomes completely annihilated, that he has no understanding or awareness of anything around him except for Allah Almighty. Fanafillah. So this is something that's mentioned in Ibn Attal Iskandari Rahmatullah alayh, this kitab, Al-Hikam, and the commentary by Maulana Abdullah Gangohi Ikmal al-Shiyam. So the topic that Hazrat said that you should speak about is a book that I've just recently finished or completed. It's called In the Shade of the Green Dome. In the Shade of the Green Dome in English. And it's also been written in Urdu. And the Urdu version is called Gumbad-e Khazra ke Saaye Mein, that in the shade of the green dome. A couple of years ago, one of the Khulafa of Hazrat Shaykh al-Hadith, Maulana Zakir Rahmatullah alayhi, and each and every single Khalifa of Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi was a gem, was an absolute gem. And Alhamdulillah, Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi, one of the things that he was renowned for in his life was, aside from his teaching of Hadith, aside from his commentaries on Hadith that he compiled, aside from his sarparasti and his patronage of the Tabligh Jamaat, and being the spine or the fundamental rare bone of the Tabligh Jamaat, aside from his responsibilities as Mazahir Ulum, the other thing that Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi did was being a great Sufi Shaykh, a Shaykh of the Tariqat. And one of the salient points of the life of Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi was that throughout his life, and many of his khulafa would mention this, it's mentioned in his biographies, I've heard many of his khulafa mention this, that we don't understand how Hazrat Rahmatullah alayhi had time to write all those letters, volumes and volumes and volumes. In the UK, Alhamdulillah, our Ustad and our Shaykh Hazrat Maulana Yusuf Mutala Sahib Rahmatullah alayhi was one of the pioneers in publishing some of the letters of Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi. If you look at his Hazrat Shaykh Unke Khulafai Kiram in 3 volumes, published in 2 separate volumes, but 3 jild. If you look at 2 jilds, but published as 3 parts. If you look inside the letters, the first part, which is the biography of Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi, most of the material is derived from the letters that Hazrat Rahmatullah alayhi received, which he then gave tertib and gave to Hazrat Maulana Yusuf Ludhianvi Rahmatullah alayhi to publish. And thereafter, one beautiful collection of Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi's letters was Mere Hazrat Ke Khutut by Hazrat Maulana Hashim Sahib. Allah Ta'ala keep him well. Alhamdulillah. Hazrat Maulana Hashim Sahib Rahmatullah alayhi Idamat Barakatuhum has written a wonderful book, which, and the special thing about Hazrat's collection of letters is that it seems that Hazrat Maulana, I'm not sure, but Hazrat Maulana Hashim Sahib Idamat Barakatuhum, the letter that he sent to Hazrat Shaykh, he would make a copy and keep that. So when he received his response, he would then give it tertib like that. So when you read his whole letters, it's actually an insight into the conversation from both sides taking place. And you can see his movement from beginning to end. He's passing through the different stages of tasawwuf, different issues that are coming through. So that's another collection, another beautiful collection is the collection in 2 volumes of Hazrat Maulana Dr. Ismail Nakhuda Sahib Rahmatullah alayh, which also includes the letters of other mashayikh, including Sufi Iqbal Sahib Rahmatullah alayh. So just a couple of years ago, we came across a short collection of Hazrat Shaykh's unpublished letters, written to one of his khulafa who passed away in Madinah to Munawwara, and this collection of letters was with his daughter in Preston. And the Khalifa who had passed away was the last Khalifa in the Hijaz, Hazrat Shaykh Ahmad Nakhuda, Rahmatullah alayh. So, not a very big collection. I'm sure there were many other letters, but a small collection of letters. And probably there's a reason behind this, is that these letters dated from the end of 1959 to 1973, most in the majority. After 1973, as the Shaykh Rahmatullah migrated to Medina Munawwara, there was no need to write. He could ask the questions directly. We don't have the records of those conversations, but we have records of these. And one salient point that strikes me, if I'm allowed to say, as a humble student, not as an expert, but something that comes across, which we've heard from many mashayikh, that if you were to give the nichor, if you were to distill all of these letters, there's some principles that pop out in front of you immediately. One of the principles that pops out at me immediately, and I know that everybody is gathered here to do istifada from Hazrat Damar Barakatuh, and it's a great honor for us to have this spiritual retreat, a few hours from a busy schedule, to come into the cave of Hazrat Maulana Abdul Rahim Sahib, like the people in Ashab Kahf, to save themselves from the fitna of the world. But the problem is our phones stay with us in our pockets. Khalwat is jalwat, as they say. We want some onesie time, but the onesie time never appears, because you could sit quietly in a corner at Fajr at 7 o'clock, after Fajr, thinking you're going to get some time to do dhikr, but that phone just stays with you, and then you stop browsing. And it's like YouTube shorts, as they say. Like you flick one, you flick another, before you know it, 3 hours have passed. Where's my time gone? Because the technology behind it is such that it pulls you in and it sucks you in. But anyway, what I was saying was that when you look at all of these collections of letters of Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi, one thing that strikes me, I know each and every single Khalifa of Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi was a gem in himself. And one thing I'd like to also mention is that when it comes to the Khulafa, when you write about the Khulafa, you're not really writing about the Khalifa. You're actually writing about Hazrat Shaykh from the lens of the Khalifa. To see the kamal of the Shaykh, the perfection of the Shaykh, in what type of effect did he have on the person to create and mold and fashion this person to become what he did through the fadl and karam of Allah Almighty. So when you're writing about the Khalifa, Khulafa, you're actually writing about the Shaykh themselves. That's why Hazrat Maulana Nur Hassan Sahib Kandalvi, Hazrat Maulana Sahib, he mentioned a little while ago, he said, the Skut Rashid, there's still a few things left to include inside it. I was a bit so perplexed. I said, what? He said the Khulafa. He said the Khulafa list is there, but it's just very minor. But the full biographies of the Khulafa should also be included, because then you see what action they actually did. But when you look at the letters of Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi, especially Hazrat Haji Sahib Rahmatullah Alayhi, two things pop out at me. And this is something that I know people are here to do istifada from Hazrat, and if they take away many things, I'm sure there'll be hidayat tomorrow when he explains things, and other things have been said. But two things: ittila, informing the Shaykh. Not making, sometimes we come into this habit of having a relationship that's rasmi, official. Hazrat comes, we pick up his shoes, we open the door, we ask for dua. But then ittila, and to tell him and inform him, and he's not here, so I can say what I want. Ittila, to inform him of one's spiritual condition. Being frank and honest. That's the first thing. And the second thing is ittiba, following his instructions. Ittila, ittiba. This, don't bombard him. Don't bazook him with loads of questions. Be a bit sensible, piecemeal, as they say, drip feed. But ittila, ittiba, inform, follow, inform and follow. And keep a control on yourself. What am I sending? How am I going to practice this? And slowly progression will be, inshallah, achieved. So that's one thing that comes across. The other thing is, in the biography of Haji Sahib Rahmatullah Alayhi, we notice one other thing. Many of the mashayikh or individuals, once they receive khilafat. So Haji Sahib, I'll tell you about Haji Sahib Rahmatullah Alayhi. 1959, he initially, I think, from what it seems from the letters, wrote to Haji Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi asking for bay'at. And he'd written to Haji Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi at the instruction of somebody who had taken him under his wing to provide him with spiritual guidance. An individual who's a Shaykh of Tariqat himself, but somebody who wasn't in the numbers game. He was out to actually benefit this person properly. Hazrat Maulana Badr Alam Sahib Mirati Rahmatullah alayh. And it seems that he probably started writing to him about 1956. Haji Sahib Rahmatullah alayh at the time was in his early 20s. And he's asking him for bay'at, but Maulana Badr Alam Sahib Rahmatullah alayh is refusing. He says no. He said, we'll do it later, we'll think about it. But what he's doing is he's giving him guidance, instructions, telling him which books to read. Awrad, Athqal, Ashqal. He's giving him zikr, giving him wird, giving him shughul to do. He's following things, but he's also asking for bay'at. In the end, he says to him that I think for you the benefit is to go and get bay'at to Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayh. So he writes to Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayh, and Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayh accepts him. And he gives him the Mamulat Parchi. And he then, Hazrat Maulana Badr Alam Sahib guides him through as well. That comes across in the letters. That he tells him that, Acha hua ki aapne mujhe ye itila di. It's very good that you've told me this, but also write to your Shaykh. And then he goes for Hajj in 1962 approximately. And he spends several weeks or maybe months in Medina Munawwara. On the way back, he goes to Jerusalem. And then he ends up in India. And then he spends 40 days, chilla, with his Shaykh, Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi in Medina Munawwara, in Saharanpur. So he spends some time there. And then he comes back to South Africa. But then he goes back to, several times he travels to Hijaz. He also then travels to Saharanpur several times. And he receives ijazat in 1968. 1968. But when you look at the letters after 1968, up to 1973, another thing pops out at you. That even though Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi has given him ijazat, even though Hazrat Shaykh has given him ijazat, he's still asking questions to his Shaykh, seeking guidance on matters. Because I have the sanad of Darul Bari, that's it, I'm independent, I'm the big man now. No, he's still going back to his Shaykh continuously. Progression is made, inshallah, we don't know, but he's still going back to his Shaykh and taking hidayat and instructions from him in order to rectify and correct himself. As Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi, in the late 70s, he wrote another risala, a very short one, which he dictated. Nisbato Ijazat. Nisbato Ijazat. Very short, maybe 16 pages. In there, he pulls text from Anfas Isa of Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah alayhi, that he says that ijazat, what is ijazat? He says ijazat is nothing. Ijazat is just a certificate of isti'dad. That certificate that a person has the capability. And it's up to the person then to do mehnat. But that was written late 70s. But Haji Sahib Rahmatullah alayh, he continues on with that process. And then you see within his life another salient point which hits you straight away when you see what he insisted on, what he advised on. Three things that really come across. And he says that, all throughout his life, he's advising people to stick to these three things. One was ta'aleem. Ta'aleem and Islamic religious education, but also ta'aleem in the home. Ta'aleem in the home, ta'aleem in the masjid. Reading the books of the mashayikh, especially Fadail Sadaqat. Sometimes people wonder, what's sadaqah? What to do with anything? But the reality is, Fadail Sadaqat is actually Hazrat Shaykh's Kitabul Zuhd. It's actually the book of asceticism. La ta'aluki, disconnecting from the dunya, connecting to Allah Almighty, turning away from the glitter of the world, but living a life of qina'at, being content with what Allah gives, which then brings you one close to Allah Almighty. And within that, Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi, I heard Haji Sahib Rahmatullah alayhi say many times, as the Shaykh would say, he would emphasize the second part. The second part of Fazail Sadaqat, which is actually Kitabul Zuhd. So that was one thing, ta'aleem. The second thing he used to also emphasize was the thing that Hazrat Shaykh actually directed him towards, which was tabligh and supporting the work of tabligh. And the third thing that he also emphasized was tazkiyah, ta'aleem, tabligh and tazkiyah. Tazkiyah yani purification of the heart, and the importance of purifying the heart, and that the majalis of zikr should take place wherever you are. If there's a masjid there and there's 2-3 brothers who have ijazat to do zikr from their shaykh, they come together and do zikr at the same time and create that mahal of dhikr and encourage other people to also participate in dhikr and bring dhikr into your own lives. And those that have ijazat from a sheikh do the zikr together. Those that don't have ijazat do the tasbihat. And those people who aren't connected to a sheikh, then encourage them to also participate in that. So this was a few things: ta'aleem, tabligh, and tazkiyah. And the other thing I mentioned was ittila and ittiba, which comes across continuously. I think that brings me to the end of my very short talk. I know Maghrib is at 7:32, 12 minutes. Was it? Dua haro logo ne. So this was the things that came across in Haji Saab's Rahmatullah alayhi's life. Alhamdulillah, the book Gumbad-e Khazra ke Saimi in Urdu is published. The UK, I mean, we've not received it, an abundant copies in the UK, but the English one is yet to be published. It'll be published very soon, inshallah. The other thing inside the book is that he's got a biography of Haji Saab Rahmatullah alayhi. And one of the and it starts off from his birth, as much information we could get. There wasn't much available till his last moments and death. And then after that is the letters, approximately 60 letters of Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi to him, translated into English. And then thereafter, approximately 33 letters of Hazrat Maulana Badr Alam Sahib Mirati Rahmatullah alayhi, who also guided him. So that brings me to the end of the talk, inshallah. I hope it's been useful. But if there's anything to take away, it's the 2 points that I made right at the beginning in Hazrat's absence, which was that the best way to benefit from the Shaykh is Sohbat is definitely there, but also to inform him, ittila. And whatever you inform him, whatever guidance he gives you, then doing ittiba. Ittila and ittiba. Being in contact with the Shaykh, telling him, don't just dump a load of information on him that becomes difficult for him to sift through, because it takes time to read very long messages, but just to the point. And whatever he informs you, act upon it. And then go back, follow back, and having this process on and on and on, inshallah we'll see benefit. And the other thing is, as Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi also said, okay, following of mamulat, which is very important. And that's something that comes across. The following of mamulat as much as one can, and also the Fadail Kitabs. And lastly, Al-I'tidal fi Maratib al-Rijal, another very important big book, Islamic Politics, as a Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi's kitab, also translates available in English. Person should read. In fact, in one of the letters to Haji Saab Rahmatullah alayhi, as a Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi tells him to read it not just once, but tells him to read it 3 times. Musalsal. Tells him to read it 3 times over and over again. And we also saw many years later when he came to Preston and he did his majalis, that was one of the books that he used to often quote from, read from, and also explain in his majalis. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأحوال والأهوال، تقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات، وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات، وترفعنا بها عندك على الدرجات، وتبلغنا بأقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات، إنك على كل شيء قدير. ألف لام ميم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم، وعنت الوجوه للحي القيوم. اللهم أنت الأحد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم اغفر وارحم وتجاوز ما تعلم. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم إنا نسألك العافية في ديننا ودنيانا وأهلنا ومالنا. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وعملا صالحا ورزقا واسعا والشفاء من كل داء. या रहमान या रहीम या मलिक या कुद्दूस या अल्लाह हमारे तमाम गुनाहों को माफ़ फरमा दे। या अल्लाह छोटे बड़े जो हमने जान के किए हैं, जो अनजान में किए हैं, सब गुनाहों को माफ़ फरमा दे। या अल्लाह हमें मौत ऐसे हालत में दे कि हमारे नामा अमाल में कोई भी गुनाह न हो, नेकी ही नेकी हो। या अल्लाह तेरा हुक्म तो है कि नेकी भी करना है, नेकी लेके भी जाना है और सही सालिम तौर पे जाना है। या अल्लाह हमें ये नेमत मुयस्सर फरमा। या अल्लाह का जब हमारा मौत आए तो ज़बान पे ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह मुहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह हमें नसीब फरमा। या अल्लाह आखिरत के जितने मनाजिल है, all the different stages of the hereafter, Ya Allah, ease them for us. Ya Allah, when the Munkar and Nakir appear, Ya Allah, let's answer them in the correct way. Let our grave become a garden of paradise, not a pit of hell. Ya Allah, when we are risen, then let Allah let us arise with the Siddiqeen, Shuhada, and the Salihin. Give us a space underneath your arsh, Ya Allah, and let us enable us to drink water from the Hawd al-Kawthar, from the beautiful hands of your beautiful Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Ya Allah, Hisab Kitab will come. We'll stand in front of you and we'll answer 5 things regarding our life, regarding our youth, regarding our wealth, where we earned it from, where we spent it, and regarding our knowledge, how much we acted upon it. Ya Allah, enable us to answer those questions properly. And through your fadl and karam, Ya Allah, forgive us any shortcomings and do hukam that we enter paradise. Let us cross full sirat at the speed of lightning, enter into Jannah. Ya Allah, all our worldly needs, Ya Allah, fulfill them. All our personal needs regarding our spiritual side, Ya Allah, fulfill them. All our dunyawi needs, Ya Allah, fulfill them all. Ya Allah, make our wives, our children, our family the coolness of our hearts. Ya Allah, remove the sicknesses of the heart, the illnesses of the heart. Enlighten our hearts completely. Enlighten our hearts with your nur. Enlighten our hearts with the nur of Iman. Ya Allah, give this ni'mat to the Muslims across the globe. Ya Allah, give this ni'mat to the Muslims across the globe to be hifaz of their deen and Islam. Ya Allah, all those Muslims, wherever they are, whatever difficulties they have. Ya Allah, whichever type of difficulties they have. Ya Allah, wherever they are in Palestine, wherever they are, Ya Allah, remove their difficulties, give them respite, and give them the best in this world and the hereafter. Ya Allah, all the needs of the ummah of the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, fulfill that in every single possible way. And all the people that are here, Ya Allah, all their nick, tamanna, all their desires, everything that they wish for, Ya Allah, complete them and give them and grant them in the best of ways. Allahumma inna nas'aluka min khayri ma sa'alaka minhu nabiyuka وعبدك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذك منه نبيك عبدك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله عليه وسلم.